What's going on, everyone? Welcome to Yankees Den. I will be your host, Lorenzo Scarabino, and a little bit about myself before we jump into covering the Yankees and this past series versus the Kansas City Royals. I am 18 years old. I am a college athlete. I am a freshman in my first year. I play baseball. I'm a second baseman. So that's a little bit about myself. So let's jump into this Yankees overview. So I just want to get started by sharing, by explaining what's been going on at the start of the season so far. We are 56 games in. The Yankees are 34 and 22, currently a game and a half out. So the Yankees have noticeable flaws in their lineup. Their bullpen starting pitching is really solid, but overall, you can't ask for anything better right now, right? They're a game and a half back. The Rays are playing unbelievable, but you don't expect them to keep that momentum the whole year because of the roster construction they have. But they're off to a hot start, hitting a little bit of a skid as of now, which has allowed the Yankees to move within a game and a half back right now. So this past series against the Royals, this sweep has pointed out a lot of things, but we usually always do good against Kansas City. For some reason, always at their ballpark too. Our catchers always hit, so we always have a frenzy over there. It's always a slugfest. But this series, I think, as we all kept our eyes open, we were waiting for that Garrett Cole start. And before we jump into that, the first few games we faced Michael Walker the first game had a great comeback. Anthony Volpe with the late knock in the ninth inning with the little rally we had after going down after our bullpen blew it when it was tied. Second game, it was a laugher, but all wins count the same, so you need to rack up wins any way you can, no matter if it's 15-1 or 1-0. We need those wins because, as we saw last year, it came down to a tiebreaker with the Yankees and the Blue Jays, and we weren't able to get it done in the ALDS. So the second game, Bailey Falter, I think he was an opener. Not really sure what their plan was with him, but we faced Michael Walker the first game, and the last game we faced Noah Cameron, which are two pretty solid arms in my eyes. So I think it was a great way to come out of a split after the rain out with the second game against the Rays. You come out of a split and now you sweep the Royals and you're on a 4-game win streak. And now you're going to Sacramento to play the A's, which swept us last time. So we gotta make sure we take this series. They're a good team this year, so they have good young talent. So we just gotta make sure we keep the pressure on and we keep rolling with these 4 games so far. So going back into Cole, last night he was phenomenal, exceptional, showing you why we paid the big bucks for him. That is vintage Cole right there. That is going back to Houston Cole, not even Cole the first 2 years he was with the Yankees. That's going back to Houston Garrett Cole, where he was very dominant, high strikeouts, as we've seen with the Yankees after his first few couple years. He kind of got more into generating more contact and more ground balls and not really going for more strikeouts. These past two starts coming back from Tommy John, he has looked great. I mean, 2 strikeouts his first start and 10 strikeouts this start, but his fastball looks a lot more lively. His fastball was ticking down 95, 94 pre surgery. And after the surgery, now he's hitting 97, 98, maybe touching 99 a little bit if he's feeling good. But he's looked great. And when you have Cam Schlittler, and you're looking at at October because you have Cam Schlittler, you're gonna have Garrett Cole, and then you're gonna have Max Fried when he comes back. Then you have Rodon. Even though Max Fried hasn't proven himself, that's still a trustable arm, I believe, that can figure it out and ultimately needs to figure it out in October. But if you have Schlittler and Cole back to back, that's very good. And then you have Freed as your game three starter. So I think that's pretty good. Later into the episode, we'll talk about trade targets and maybe Terry Schoolbull. But as of now, let's go on to a couple of other topics I want to go into. So this next topic that we are going to talk about is Jose Caballero and Anthony Volpe. The interesting thing about this is Volpe started the year on the IL with his injury, and Caballero got the runway at shortstop. He he didn't start off all that well. We were like, we need Volpe back. We were wanting Volpe back after Yankee fans were complaining about his previous years because he didn't do all that well. But how Cabby was playing, he might have been, we were looking for something maybe to give a spark, or maybe he could come back and do a little better. But after the first 3 weeks of the season, he had a good week. He started. Then 2 weeks after that, Cabby was a little shaky. But after that, he's been great. Just like when we got him after the deadline, he was great for us. He's scrappy. He's the exact player we need on this team. Puts the ball in play, steals bases, is quick, wrecks havoc. You know, and that's what we saw with the Blue Jays and how they went so far. They all You can't name me maybe their 1 through 9, their names, because because they're really no names, but they're scrappy and they get it done. That's how they went to the World Series. They scrap at bats, and that's been passed down from their organization. And 1 through 9, even Vladdy, he's not a pure power hitter. He's gonna make you work, and he's gonna make it a difficult at bat. 1 through 9. Ernie Clement, same thing. He's a phenomenal player, set the record for most hits in a postseason. So that just goes to show you that the type of style that Cabby plays works, and it's not the Yankees way of maybe just hitting home runs and for power, as we've seen throughout the years, and we know that's what they do. But getting back on the topic about Caballero and Volpe, Volpe has come back, and with his limited opportunity, with Caballero going on the 10-day IL, fracturing his finger, Volpe really showed out, and he made the plays. The first day in Baltimore was a little rocky with that error, but since then he's been fine. His arm, it's still it's still something to look for, 'cause it's still a little weak and not where you want it at for a shortstop, for your starting shortstop, especially of the Yankees. Especially, he's got more of a second baseman's arm. As they said, he's going to be taking some reps there as he's not playing some days. Maybe Caballero is going to be at shortstop. But the biggest takeaway from Anthony Volpe's comeback is his swing. His swing, the past few years, he's had his hands higher up and he's lowered them a little bit to get in a better hitting position to attack the baseball, and it's created more of a flat bat path, which I think is excellent. I don't know if it was more of the coaching, or if he thought about it, or it just happened and he didn't think about it. But he doesn't need to go for the homers, because in 2024, we saw at the beginning of the year him get off to that hot start, batting 300, and we put him at leadoff, and it didn't work out ultimately. But he wasn't going for home runs. When he started going for home runs and worrying about getting to 20 homers, 20 stolen bases, that's when you kind of seen the strikeout numbers go up, and he started to regress a little bit. And his defense started to regress because his offense was regressing. So he was less confident. I think the injury was a little bit of a refresher for him. And him being optioned down to AAA to to keep Caballero at shortstop, I think that kind of lit a fire under him, and like, oh shoot, I actually do need to start playing better. I need to fix what's wrong. Maybe my game isn't home runs. Maybe it's singles and doubles, getting on base, drawing more walks, and stealing bases, which which is all we need out of him. And the 6 through 9 spot, that's all you need out of Volpe. And him to get back to his Gold Glove defense, he needs to get back to attacking the ball, not sitting on it, letting it play him. He needs to attack the ball. And so far, he's made all the plays, but I feel like it's a little shaky when he's out there. I have a little more trust in Caballero, but he's doing fine right now. So as long as his offense doesn't slip, you're okay with the defense. And if he's playing Gold Glove defense, then that's even better. so so that's great. He's been great. Caballero, in this series. He started at third base the first game. Then the second game, he got a day off, and then the finale, Volpe started all three games, but Caballero was in left field. So that just goes to show you the versatility with Caballero and what they could do with him. They could put him at third base when McMahon is not hitting, and maybe for whatever reason Rosario isn't available. You could put Caballero anywhere. You could take out Grisham, which is what I would do, and keep Bellinger and Aaron Judge. You have Rice at first. You have Jazz that's penciled in at second base. If he needs a day off, I would put Volpe there since now he's working out there. And I would, and then you could play around because McMahon has gotten reps at shortstop now, and he's played a game at shortstop this year. And Ahmed Rosario, who we're going to get to later in this episode, I think needs to be the starting shortstop till he stops producing. As much as I am a big McMahon fan, I do think that Rosario right now with the numbers needs to be the starting third baseman, which gives the Yankees a better a better chance to win the game. And that's not putting anything on McMahon or saying that we need to DFA him or release him. We should keep him on the roster because he's still valuable with his glove. And any offense you get out of him, we saw yesterday, he had a 2-run homer and he got a single as well. So any offense you get from a defensive first player is a plus. But his numbers just haven't been where you want them to. And Ahmed Rosario has an over 800 OPS, which is very solid, and he needs to play until he shows that he's going to regress any bit. Now on the catcher position, Austin Wells, JC Escar, that platoon is just not working, flat out, just not working. And at the deadline, I think they will address it. I'm pretty sure a tweet just came out not too long ago today. Joel Sherman tweeted out that the Yankees were engaging and are going to engage with teams for a right-handed catching bat. So that is huge, and there are a couple options that we'll talk about later. But the thing right now is that Austin Wells, you saw how he was in 2024, and he was great. But towards the end of the season in September, middle of September to October run, he kind of fell off a little bit. And ever since that run, he hasn't been the same. Last year, he was not good. And this year, he's not good. I could care less really about the defense. He needs to start producing. And most of the catchers on the market that could be on the market are good defenders and they can hit. But when your offense is lacking a little bit and they have the days that Aaron Judge isn't doing something or Ben Rice can't pick you up because he goes 3 for 4 every day, or Jazz Chisholm striking out, whatever the case may be, you have to have guys like a Caballero to fill in and make that his game. Take the game, put the game in his hands, kind of create something. Maybe if you have a catcher that can hit in some of the situations Wells is in, he just doesn't come through with bases loaded, 2 outs, 1 out, no outs, just not being situational enough. And that's one thing that I love about baseball a lot is I love situational hitting. That I cannot stress that enough is someone's a professional hitter when you see the situational hitting with runners on base. If a runner's on second base and no outs, what are you trying to do? If there's a runner on third base with 1 out, what are you trying to do? Austin Wells looks like he's trying to swing for the fences because he hit 20 jacks last year. We cannot worry about hitting 20 jacks. He needs to put the ball in play, get his average up. His defense is very good, but we need offense. And and you need to put the ball in play with a runner on third base. He needs to flatten out his swing. He's uppercut. He's trying to launch the ball. You know what he's doing. Pitchers have a plan for him. They're attacking him with sliders away from him or change ups, fastballs outside high, and it's just his barrel's going right underneath it. Another topic I would like to cover is Ahmed Rosario, as I brought up a little bit briefly, and Ryan McMahon. Ryan McMahon, when we got him last deadline, I loved the pickup. I did, because everyone on the Yankees fan base was stressing about defense. We didn't have the defense. Peraza wasn't getting it done. Although now, as you see with the Angels, he's playing phenomenal. Pretty good, batting 260, playing elite defense at third base. But I just think that we didn't give him enough runway. Maybe he needed a little change of scenery. But when you were talking about last year's deadline and what the Yankees needed was defense at the hot corner. That's what the Yankees needed, because our offense was first in the league. Our offense was great. So that is what you needed at the time. And it was great in that playoff series against Boston, catching that fly ball going into the dugout. Great, right? But and he showed out in the postseason. He did in the big moment. He hit a home run. He hit very well. But you don't know if that's sustainable. We haven't seen we don't really know, because he doesn't have a large enough sample size for that. So as we go into October this year, we got to see. But as of right now in the regular season, your best option is Ahmed Rosario. Since he's come over to the Yankees, he's been a bright spot. His defense, yes, is not all that great. He could handle it, but the reason I said at the beginning of this episode that McMahon isn't useless is because of his glove. You still need him, because you start Rosario at the beginning of the game, and when it's close game or the seventh, the eighth, the ninth inning, that's when you deploy McMahon. That's when he is useful. That's when Ryan McMahon is best useful, and where you will give him the best opportunity to do good. But Ahmed Rosario has raked since coming over, runners in scoring position, not leading off an inning. Even when he's not in the game, you see what he's doing outside of the dugout, hyping his teammates up when they score. That's just an energy that you need in the clubhouse. Every team needs to have someone like that to bring up the energy and to be good vibes, because that sets the tone for the whole team. And you see how much enthusiasm he plays with. And that's also another thing that I would like the Yankees to get more of. They've gotten a little more past the just homers a little bit. They've gotten Caballero, they got Ahmed Rosario. You know, Volpe's flattening out his swing now. Cody Bellinger's a little bit of a slap hitter, which has worked out great. His contract has worked out phenomenally. Cody Bellinger has been great. You see that now Aaron Judge has taken a little bit of a step back, but at some point you knew that was going to happen. You knew he was going to stop being Jesus Christ on the baseball field. He's been great, and he's not terrible. He has a 950 OPS. So that's what we're calling, a little bit of a step back for Aaron Judge, which just goes to show you into perspective how good he really is. But he is taking a regression. And when a player like that is taking a regression that you rely so much on, you need other guys to step up, like your catcher. You're not having Aaron Judge going to hit 62 home runs, most likely, because you're just not going to have that. He's getting older, and his bat's slowing down a little bit. It's not as quick as it was last year. So, and you kind of see it a little bit. He's a little hesitant on pitches. He hasn't hit his stride, even though the past few games he has come a little closer. And I think come June, July, you'll start to see his batting average creep back up to 280, 270, 280, somewhere around there. So he will be Aaron Judge, but maybe not at the level that we all expect now because of the last few seasons. And the Yankees build the past few years and have constructed their team around what Aaron Judge is going to do, the type of numbers he's going to put up and he's projected to put up. And now that he's getting older and taking a regression, you're seeing a hit of that. Like a couple games we've had two rough patches so far. And when Judge isn't doing anything, the offense doesn't seem to be doing anything. So when something like that is going on, that just goes to show you a little bit Cashman, how he built the roster, not taking in consideration maybe Judge taking a step back with Grisham in center field and thinking he's going to put up the same exact numbers he put up last year is just ridiculous. But going back on the topic of Rosario and McMahon, yeah, Rosario needs to be the starting third baseman. He needs to be the starting third baseman. He needs to hit low in the order because he provides a spark, and our 6 through 9 isn't all that good. Paul Goldschmidt has been phenomenal since Stanton's been on the IL. You put Goldschmidt at first base and you put Ben Rice at DH, and Paul Goldschmidt has been getting it done, both defensively and offensively. I would keep him in there. I would even keep him in there when Stanton comes back. That's how much I like Goldschmidt's at bats and his veteran leadership in the lineup. Because although we should get a right-handed bat, because you should not have Wells and Escara, two lefties, as either a backup catcher, in my opinion. I think that you slide Ben Rice over to catcher, and this is just what I'm saying. It's probably most likely not going to happen because they want him to put him at first base. You're going to learn first base and you're going to be good at first base. That's what they want. They don't want him to get taxed at catcher like the end of last season, or even in spring training. They were talking about how his body was getting a little taxed. So that's what they want. But I would put Rice at catcher. I would slide Goldschmidt to first base, and I would put Stan at DH. That, in my opinion, is the best lineup you could throw out there. Now, with that being said, when Stan comes back, it's not probably, it'll be close to the deadline, but the deadline's a little further. It's the beginning of August, so you're going to have to wait a little bit more. When Stan comes back, you're going to have Rice at first base. Unfortunately, Goldschmidt's going to have to take a seat on the bench, which is unfortunate. But with what we have right now and Stan clogging up that DH position, that's what you're going to have. And with his bat, you're going to take Stanton's bat because of what he's done the past couple years when he is healthy and in the lineup. So, with all that being said, let's move on to another major issue with the Yankees. And in my opinion, the biggest issue that needs to be fixed by the deadline, and I think could be fixed by internal players, by the organization. We have players inside the organization that I think could get it done. But let's just talk about the bullpen. So, Bednar, last year he comes over, he was pretty solid. This year he has not. He's been good, and I think he will get better. Obviously, he's been taxed a little bit because Boone loves to go to his bullpen for no reason sometimes, and that taxes the bullpen, as we've seen in years past. It always happens come the summer, the June swoon, the bullpen is taxed. He keeps going to it, and it doesn't get any better. But although Benar has been better as of late, his ERA is above 4. So you would like to see that go down a little bit. Doval has not been at all what we've thought. Tim Hill has been a lone bright spot in the bullpen, just a great story, great Matt Blake experiment, and he's been phenomenal, inducing that ground ball contact, getting out of big jams, and not being afraid to throw it in the strike zone. And that's been a big part of the bullpen. Also, Brent Hedrick. He's been great so far, even though he's been a little rocky as of late. He's been used a lot, a ton. So I don't, what I just said. That's what happens when you go to the bullpen when you don't need to go to the bullpen. Taking out Garrett Cole, although yes, I see he just came back from Tommy John and it's his second appearance. Just letting him reach 75 pitches, maybe you could have squeezed 10 more pitches. Maybe that could have been another inning that you don't have to go and use your bullpen. But there are spots in there. Ryan Yarbrough does not have a spot on this team. Last year, He was great for us. He filled in when Clark Schmidt got hurt and he went into the rotation and he did great. But this year, currently, as we're sitting, I don't think he has a spot on this team. And and there are people within the organization, as I said in AAA. You talk about Giovanni Cruz, you talk about Carlos Lagrange. Those are two names that I just listed that you can insert into the bullpen. Maybe if you want to get a little fun, have a little fun, you talk about maybe inserting ERC, Elmer Rodriguez Cruz. I know he's a starter and he's come up a little bit and he's maybe looked a little rocky. I think his control could be a little better, but probably just nerves. But his stuff looks really good. I think he'll be a pretty decent pitcher in this league for a little bit. You can maybe talk about putting him to the bullpen. You have Clark Schmidt coming back, which I think he will slot into the bullpen when Max Fried is healthy. Then you have Schlittler, Cole, Fried, Rodon. And then you have to pick whether you want Weathers in the bullpen because he's been injury prone and he hasn't pitched over 90 innings and he's more than halfway there right now. So would you put Ryan Weathers in the bullpen because of the injuries and the innings limit? Or do you put Will Warren in there? Will Warren has taken a huge step and he's looked great. Usually he gets into trouble during games and last year it would just blow up right in front of him. We saw that with the Dodgers series and a couple other games. This year he's limited that and he's got more swing and miss. His stuff is playing. He's learned that his stuff is playing inside the zone and he doesn't have to beat around the bush and try and dot everything. He could put it in and he could get swing and misses and ground balls. Also, Ryan Weathers has been a phenomenal trade by Brian Cashman. My first reaction to that trade, I liked it a lot, but obviously, as every Yankee fan, the injury risk is what scares you. He does have control, but he's been phenomenal. He's got great strikeout stuff, and that's why maybe you put him to the bullpen for this year. For the long haul, I think he will be in the rotation, but as of this year, right now, he has a lot. He has strikeout stuff, upper 90s, 99, maybe could hit 100 if he's in the bullpen. And the reason I say that is because you insert him in the bullpen, he doesn't have to hold on to maybe some of his velo for later in the game. He doesn't have to keep it consistent for 5, 6, maybe 7 innings. He's coming in for an inning or two so he could let it all out and he could generate more strikeouts. So I think he would be solid in the bullpen. That would be my pick. I don't know if Will Warren would do a great job in the bullpen. I think his big step to the rotation, he should continue that, even though I love Ryan Weathers and what he's done for the rotation so far. And it would be hard. You can maybe talk yourself into a 6-man rotation, but I just don't see the Yankees really doing that. But I just gave you 4 options right there of how the Yankees could fix their bullpen. You DFA Ryan Yarbrough. He doesn't have a place. Fernando Cruz has been great. Tim Hill's been great. And Bednar. You keep those 3, right? Tim Hill, Brent Hendrick. You can make an argument for him. So that's 4. Doval, if he figures it out, but he has to figure it out. He has to stop throwing those sliders. He has to stay with the 100-mile-an-hour cutter, the sinkers, and he has to stay with the hard stuff. He cannot go away from that. But as I said, Clark Schmidt can insert in there. Then you have Ryan Weathers when Max Fried comes back. And that's talking about if all the pitchers are healthy, which never happens. So that's a hypothetical, a maybe could happen. And then Lagrange, I would definitely try. And a tweet also came out a little bit earlier, a couple hours ago, that the Yankees might try to put Lagrange in the minor leagues in the bullpen for some innings and see how he does. So then he could be inserted into the bullpen for the Yankees. And also Giovanni Cruz, he's right now this, in my opinion, the second best reliever that we would have if he was up in the major leagues. So I think that they should give him a shot because when he was called up not too long ago, last week, he did great. And they used him 2 innings and then they used him again back-to-back days. They should bring him back up. He's a great piece. And that's how I think you figure out the bullpen right now. For the short term, if it still is an issue at the deadline, you go address that. Going into the deadline now, I want to talk about some trade targets. So we have obvious needs at the catcher position and the bullpen. You can make an argument maybe for the outfield because of Trent Grisham or third base, but we have Rosario, and I think Rosario and McMahon are kind of a pretty good platoon right there. Rosario can hit. You deploy McMahon later into the games. Trent Grisham in center field, he's not going to duplicate what he did last year. It's just not going to happen. I don't see it happening. And he's gotten hotter as of late, but you have Jason Dominguez coming off of an injury. He'll be coming back, and I think you could put him as in center field is what I would do. But for our first trade target, I'm going to talk about not no catcher, no bullpen arm. I'm going to talk about Tarek Skubal. And the reason I bring that up is I think it's a long shot, but a tweet did come out that the Yankees, Dodgers, Blue Jays, I'm pretty sure Padres, couple teams showing that might be interested in Terry Skubal. And the reason I say this is Skubal, and we contacted them last year, and they wanted Schlittler, they wanted Ben Rice. But the reason I say it this year, maybe the Yankees will be a little more inclined to make a deal with them, is because they have Terry Skubal on as a rental half a year, so he won't cost as much coming off of the injury as well. But they also have Dylan Dingler, who would solve a catcher position. So you can make a blockbuster. Terry Skubal would be the Juan Soto trade for us, but as a pitcher. He would be a great asset. Anytime you have someone of that magnitude, no matter if you have all the pitching in the world, you go get that guy. Because in a postseason series, you would have Schlittler, Cole, and Skubal as your three. And with that three-man wrecking crew, your offense has to feel pretty good. And Max Fried would be your four starter, and then Rodon would be your five. But you would most likely have them in the bullpen because you don't use five starters in the postseason. So that also helps out the bullpen in the postseason. But Tarek Skubal, they would probably want, I would say, they would shy away from maybe a George Lombard. And I think you get the Tigers to take what he's making in arbitration this year, and you could give him a LeGrande, an ERC, a Jason Dominguez, a Spencer Jones, because the thing is they're going to want some MLB talent. They might even ask for a Will Warren. So would you be inclined to doing that? But because of the Tigers, they're not a big market. They don't really spend all that much. They're not going to pay Terry Skubal, and they know they're not going to pay Skubal. So what they're going to do is I think that they will try and get something out of him. And they have Kevin McGonigal, who's a rookie. So they have a lot of young. They have Spencer Torkelson. They still have Baez on a contract. But even though Dylan Dingler fits the young movement that they are doing, I still think that you could package them together and fix two of your holes with that one trade right there. And then you could address the bullpen with few moves, maybe one or two bullpen arms. But for Tarek Skubal, yeah, you go get that player, definitely 100%, and you pair him with Schlittler and Garrett Cole because that's a rotation that can get you to the World Series. And even if your offense is struggling and is having a bad day at the plate, you could go win a World Series just by that pitching. So that I really like that. But also for catcher, Dylan Dingler is a great option because he hits, he plays great defense. But aside from him, I would I have two other people in mind. And I'm gonna go with my first what would be my first option last. But Hunter Goodman could also be an option from Colorado. He has better numbers away from Colorado, which is intriguing. He's a good defender also. And also, actually, I'm going to bring up another catcher, Ryan Jeffers. Even though he injured his hamate bone, he's still great against lefties. He's a great bat, major upgrade. When I'm talking about these catchers, any of these catchers you bring in is a major upgrade over the catcher position currently with Austin Wells and JC Escara. So you instantly get better with one of those guys. But my guy who I would trade for is Adley Rutschman. And if the Orioles are in a position where they would, because if they just swept the Tampa Bay Rays, so if they get hot and go on a little run, then they probably won't do that. But if they don't see themselves in a playoff position and they could get something, since they have Samuel Basallo locked up for a few years, whatever his contract looks like. You get Ali Rutschman. He's a switch hitting catcher that hits from both sides of the plate, and he hits great from both sides of the plate. And he's a great defender. He's still young. You know what you're getting with him, even though last year he might not have performed to the way you have liked or the top prospect that you would like. He's still an upgrade over Austin Wells. And I think you would have to package Austin Wells, obviously ERC. You would have to use the depth. And I'm fine with that. I'm all for win now. And I don't think you should hold on to prospects because you don't know what they're going to become. And as we see with the Dodgers, they're win now. They don't have much prospects on their team. They didn't need a need for Kyle Tucker, and they said the heck with it, and they went out and got Kyle Tucker to make their team better. Even though he hasn't played up to the expectation, you go and get a player like that to help your team because of how good they are. Also, for the bullpen, going on to the bullpen, now we're getting a little off of catcher, talked about those, Terry Schoolball a little bit, and now going on to the bullpen. One bullpen arm that I think will be available and the Yankees should 100% engage in if you're not going to go out and get a superstar like Schoolball is Josh Hader of the Astros. The Astros are not any good right now. Their offense is all right, but they aren't any good right now. So Josh Hader, I think, could be a name at the deadline that entices a lot of contending teams. And I think that's someone you go and get. Josh Hader could be your closer, and your setup man would be David Bednar. He's got swing and miss stuff coming off of injuries, but you know what you're getting with Josh Hader. It's Josh Hader. You go get Josh Hader. Also, Jojo Romero from the St. Louis Cardinals. He's a lefty. I like He's been talked about, I think, for a few years now, maybe 2 years at the deadlines. I think he's would be a really solid pickup. And to be honest, there's a righty, Sant Telizin, or something like that on the Rockies, I'm pretty sure. But Romero and Hader would be my top two picks because you could go get you could bring up Giovanni Cruz and Clark Schmidt's coming back. You could bring up LaGrange, Weathers or Warren will slide to the bullpen. So I think that you have the stuff internally to fix your bullpen issues. And even though rotation isn't an issue, it's Tarek Skubal. And then you could kill two birds with one stone and get Dylan Dingler, and your team gets astronomically better. You have then now you're talking about an outfield of Cody Bellinger, Jason Dominguez, and Aaron Judge, and possibly Jason Dominguez out there and Trent Grisham. And you have Ben Rice at first base. You have Jazz Chisholm at second base. I would start Caballero at shortstop, or you have Volpe at shortstop. You have Ahmed Rosario at third, and you have Dylan Dingler, Adley Rutschman, Hunter Goodman, whoever one you want to plug in at the catcher position. You have that as your catcher, and now you're ready to roll because you have a real offense that's going to put the ball in play and make stuff happen. They have power as well, but your offense gets better, your bullpen gets better, your rotation gets better. And as we talk about the flaws of the Yankees, I want to make it very clear that even the Dodgers, no team currently, especially in the AL, how awful the AL has been, there isn't a team in baseball right now that isn't flawed. Every team is flawed right now. The Dodgers aren't playing all that well. They could be playing better for what they have. Every team, the Padres are flawed. Every team is flawed. Tatis hasn't hit a home run yet this season. So every team is flawed. And at the deadline, you can get better and you could get better in a win now stage with Aaron Judge getting older, with Garrett Cole coming back from Tommy John and getting older, Rodon in his third year, I'm pretty sure fourth year of his contract. So you want to win now with Aaron Judge, Stanton, Cole, you want to win now with guys like that on the team. Thank you guys for the first episode. That's going to close out the first episode. If you haven't already and you watched the video, make sure you like and you subscribe to help me out. I would appreciate that very much. Lorenzo Scarabino closing out for tonight. I will be back tomorrow night after the Yankee game. Good night.